My name is Gefreiter Martin Keller, Infanterie-Regiment 258. I was 22 when we reached the outskirts of the village Yakroma, north of Moscow, on December 1st, 1941. By then, we no longer feared Soviet tanks or artillery. We feared the cold. The temperature had dropped to minus 30 degrees Celsius. Our boots froze into solid blocks. Rifle bolts had to be warmed under our armpits to cycle. Food was stiff as stone. Men urinated on their hands to thaw their fingers enough to load magazines. That night, we dug shallow firing pits in the snow, but the shovels clanged against permafrost like striking iron. The wind screamed through the pine trees, carrying the smell of burning engine oil from stalled trucks that had frozen on the road behind us. Someone muttered, "If Moscow doesn't fall soon, we will." They were right. But we didn't know that the Soviets were already gathering for a massive counterattack. On December 3rd, we were ordered toward Klin, a small but strategically critical town. Our objective was to cut the railway leading to Moscow. But the 26th Soviet Army had already reinforced the area. We marched through forests so deep the sunlight barely touched the snow. My breath formed clouds in front of me, drifting upward like smoke from a burning house. My fingers had turned yellow from frostbite. I hid it from the Feldwebel. Any sign of weakness meant being left behind. Around noon, we came under fire. The crack of a Mosin Nagant rifle echoed through the trees. A man ahead of me, Weiss from Frankfurt, collapsed as if someone had cut his strings. Blood spread across the snow, instantly turning dark. We spread out, crawling behind frozen logs. Machine gun fire cut branches above us. The Soviets were well hidden, their white camouflage jackets blending perfectly with the forest. "MG-34 forward," someone shouted. Lieutenant Hartwig set up our machine gun on a stump. Schaller fed the belt with bare hands, his skin sticking to the frozen metal. The gun thundered, a metallic scream rattling through the woods. But the Soviets did not fall back. They were not the panicked conscripts we had seen in the summer. These were Siberian ski troops, trained for winter warfare, fresh, well-equipped, and unafraid. Within an hour, our advance stalled completely. We were ordered to withdraw to a defensive line near Krasnaya Polyana. It was the first time in the war I had heard an officer say, "We retreat." We reached Krasnaya Polyana on December 5th, 1941, marching past burnt-out vehicles from Panzergruppe 3. Many tanks had been abandoned due to frozen engines or lack of fuel. Crewmen sat inside them with frostbitten faces, too exhausted to speak. The village smelled of smoke and frozen corpses. Houses stood shattered, their roofs collapsed. Dogs gnawed on frozen bread looted from ruined kitchens. Inside one house, we found a Soviet medic left behind after their retreat. He was tending to a wounded civilian woman whose leg had been shattered by shell fragments. He didn't reach for his weapon when he saw us. He simply said in Russian, "Please, she will die." Our Feldwebel hesitated. Then he ordered us to leave them. We closed the door. War makes you cruel in ways you never forget. That evening, we dug in on the outskirts. Our field kitchen didn't arrive. Its fuel had gelled into sludge. So we ate frozen bread dipped in melted snow. I remember looking at the red-tinged sky over Moscow. We were so close that we could see the faint glow of the city under blackout. Some men joked that we could smell the bread from the bakeries, but we had all sensed the shift. We were no longer the hunters. At dawn on December 6th, the first shells fell. The Soviet artillery began with a slow rhythm. One shell every few seconds. Then the tempo increased until the earth shook like an angry animal. We dove into our shallow trenches. Snow and dirt rained into my eyes and mouth. The ground vibrated through my ribs as if the world itself had started to crumble. Then the infantry came. I saw them through the drifting snow, dark silhouettes in white cloaks moving fast. Some were on skis, gliding silently between the pines. Others crawled on the ground, rifles resting on the snow. "Flanking us!" someone yelled. Our MG-34 opened fire. The barrel steamed from frozen oil burning off. Men shrieked, German and Soviet. A ski trooper fell forward, his rifle skidding across the ice. But they kept coming, hundreds of them, maybe more. The Soviets had T-34s with them, machines whose diesel engines still ran in temperatures that had destroyed our vehicles. One appeared on the left flank, breaking through a fence like it was tissue. Its cannon fired, sending a blast of heat across my face. The shockwave picked me up and threw me back into the trench. My ears rang. I tasted blood. We were ordered to fall back again, this time toward Nestorovo. It was the moment I realized Germany would never take Moscow. During the retreat, our company marched in total silence. Snow fell so heavily that visibility dropped to 10 meters. The air was thick with smoke from burning supply depots we were ordered to destroy. We passed columns from the 6th Panzer Division, their vehicles half buried in snow. Many crews walked next to their tanks, leading the steel beasts like wounded animals. A driver from a supply company approached me, his eyelashes white with frost. "Have you seen the medic station?" he asked. I hadn't. He nodded and walked on. Later, I found him sitting in the snow on the side of the road, leaning against a birch tree. His eyes were open, but he wasn't breathing. The cold kills quietly. That night, we bivouacked in the ruins of a barn. The roof was gone. Snow drifted inside, settling on our blankets. Someone passed around a frozen tin of pork that we chipped apart with bayonets. In the distance, we heard Soviet Katyusha rockets, howling like banshees sweeping the sky. I pressed my helmet over my ears and waited for dawn. On December 9th, we reached positions near the Lama River, taking shelter in abandoned trenches left by the 18th Soviet Rifle Division weeks earlier. The river was frozen solid. Frost-covered reeds swayed in the wind like skeletal fingers. The Soviets attacked before noon. Their artillery shattered the ice. Fragments rained down like shrapnel. Machine gun fire echoed across the frozen fields. We returned fire, but our rifles jammed constantly. I watched Hartwig beat his carabiner 98K against the trench wall, screaming in frustration. The bolt simply would not move. A Soviet platoon attempted to cross the river. Our MG-34 cut them down, bullets kicking up fountains of ice. But more came behind them. And more. One Soviet soldier, wounded in the thigh, crawled toward our line. He fell repeatedly, leaving streaks of blood on the ice. He collapsed 10 meters from our trench. The firing died down for a moment. The only sound was the wind. He tried to speak, maybe asking for water, maybe asking for God. No one moved to help him. He froze to death where he lay. Even now, decades later, I still see his outstretched hand. On December 11th, a courier arrived on a motorcycle, its tires wrapped in rope for traction. He delivered a message from higher command. "Hold positions. No further withdrawal authorized." The order nearly caused a mutiny. We were exhausted, half frozen, and low on ammunition. The Soviets were attacking with fresh divisions. Holding the line was suicide. That night, the temperature fell to minus 40 degrees Celsius. Our canteens froze solid. Our breath crystallized on our scarves. Someone's rifle barrel cracked clean in half from the cold. Around midnight, the Soviets launched a probing attack. Gunfire flickered across the river like lightning. We opened fire, but many of our weapons produced only dull clicks. A man in my squad, Klaus, began to laugh uncontrollably. He laughed until tears froze on his cheeks. "We're already dead," he said. "We just haven't fallen over yet." I believed him. On December 12th, High Command finally acknowledged the reality. The front was collapsing. We were ordered to withdraw toward Volokholamsk. It was our first organized retreat since the campaign began. We marched at dusk, our breath forming trails behind us. The road was littered with destroyed equipment, anti-tank guns, abandoned because the wheels had shattered in the cold. At one point, I turned around. The horizon was burning, a red glow where the Soviet artillery struck our former positions. Snowflakes fell, illuminated by the fire like sparks drifting from a dying forge. We kept walking. Somewhere behind us, Moscow remained unconquered, and the war had changed.